welcome to another episode of Spotlight Sessions. My name's Ilan Fisher. I'm the host. I also head up accessiBe's nonprofit partnerships and social impact. Today, I'm speaking with a good friend. I think now we can say we're good friends now. Yuval Wagner, who's the president of Access Israel, a really, really impactful organization in Israel and globally. How's it going, Yuval? It's fantastic to have you on.
Thank you for having me aboard.
So, Yuval, your story is so dense and also so meaningful to a lot of people that I felt kind of when I was researching how to do this interview was specifically how do I give Yuval an introduction? So I'm going to give you the stage to kind of introduce yourself and your story.
Well, as the founder of a nonprofit called Access Israel, many nonprofit starts from a personal story, you know. So I myself was born to a father who was confined to a wheelchair and paralyzed from the stomach down. So all my childhood, I grew up as a carrier of my father because nothing was accessible. Later on, I became an Israeli pilot, and unfortunately, I had a technical failure while we flew to a mission, and we crashed. And I was very, very fortunate and lucky to stay alive. But I broke my neck, so I'm paralyzed neck down and also my wheelchair. So now it's a personal issue for me, and I started living as a person with a disability, again in an inaccessible country. And living like that, I started to work, and I married, I have kids and grandchild, and studied and everything. I did everything like every other person is doing, but nothing has changed regarding accessibility. So I wrote a letter to the president of Israel, telling them, Houston, we have a problem. Israel is totally not accessible, and it's unbelievable because they have here so many people with disabilities that are at home arrest. So 2 days later, I get a telephone from the president himself saying, Yuval, I read your letter. I don't understand about accessibility. What is it? And we talked about it a few minutes, and then he said, listen, I'm ordering you to establish Access Israel. And your mission is to make Israel fully accessible to all disabilities in all areas of life. And in 6 months, you are launching this organization here at the President's house. So I was shocked. I got a mission from the president. Okay, and this is not another regular day. And we funded Access Israel.
That's awesome. Wow. I didn't know that part of the story. And Yuval, if we're going kind of a little bit of a step back, did your experience with your father and with your family, did that impact your mindset once you had your injury?
Knowing that it was easier, a little easier for the family to understand what the meanings of being disabled, paralyzed, and on a wheelchair. So it's something that we all knew in the family, so it's a little easier. But as a person, when you have such an accident and from being a pilot and the sky is the limit, and now you are limited to what a wheelchair can roll in an inaccessible environment, it's from one side to the other, all the way to the other side. One side of the ball game to the home run in the other side. And so you have to learn how to live with yourself, to accept, to decide to continue. And you have to deal with your health issues that are from the accident. And you have to deal with how you're being accepted by the society. And you have to deal with accessibility. So it's a lot to deal with. Lucky for me, I was very surrounded by my family, by my friends, by the Air Force. So the old Cape continued to keep me optimistic and looking, to do the best I can in this tough situation.
Thank you so much for that really candid answer. And Yuval, before we kind of push forward, because I've been involved with Access Israel probably the best part of a year now, being in your network. But what were some of the early challenges? You talk about Israel being very inaccessible, and to an extent, it still is largely inaccessible, like most of society. What were the early challenges that you were working on, and what are some of the challenges that you're working on now? And has there been progress over the past 20 years or so?
Well, we immediately, when we founded Access Israel, we all were graduates of business school. So we took the model of making a business plan out of that, but not for profit. Our targets were different. We immediately found a model that we have to work on awareness, because decision makers, if they don't understand why it's important, they don't deal with it. They don't embrace it. They don't implement it in the organization, and that is what we need. The second thing that we found out is there's no legislation, so we had to do a lot of legislation. And thirdly, we found out that you need to do all kind of implementation projects. Today we call it impact projects. Another thing you have to understand that accessibility is different for each disability. What my barriers on the wheelchairs are not the barriers for someone who is blind. It's not the barriers of someone who is deaf, or it's not the barriers of someone that have a cognitive disability. So you have to understand that disability is different for each disability. It's like a matrix. Each disability and each area of life. Because what you do in a building, it's not what you do on the street. It's not what you do in a park. It's not what you do in a stadium. It's not what you do in a hospital. It's not what you do in school. So making accessibility, you have to learn what's the barriers and then what the solutions for all kinds of disabilities on one vector. On the other vector is in all areas of life. Second thing that people don't know, usually people, when they think of accessibility, they think only on the physical or the environment accessibility. But accessibility is today divided to four main parts. One is the physical, architectural, environment accessibility. The second one is services that organization gives, which is the call centers, the services given by the service personnel in the organizations, the materials, the information, the events. So all of those things are another area where they need to learn how to give accessibility. Thirdly is the digital, which is websites, applications, automatic machines, and any other digital platforms that are there that being used by organizations and have to be accessible. And lastly is employment of people with disabilities. So all of those four things are under the umbrella of accessibility. So it's very complex, very big thing, a very interesting thing, and also very challenging thing. But the beauty of it, what we did in Access Israel, we asked ourselves, how do we implement it in a very efficient way? And how do we convince decision makers to do it? And we made this model that's called accessible business equals profitable business. Okay, and in this model, where it starts with the CEO, that we make him believe that it's the right thing to do, not for me because I'm asking, for him as a business, or for him as a municipality mayor, or for him as a hospital manager, or for him as a university dean. They all have to understand that they're not doing me a favor or people with disabilities a favor. They first have to believe that it's great for their organization. We call it the win-win-win. If we convince the CEO to do it, then it's our win and his win. And the third win, when he implements it, then people with disabilities can enjoy it. So the idea is to make this triple win happen, and then you have accessible entity equals profitable entity, mainly because the target market here is super interesting. It talks about 15 to 18% out of the population in any community, in any part of the world. So it's a big thing. To tell you the truth, not all the 80% truly need accessibility. Some need a little accessibility, some need little more, and some, for them, it's crucial. For those that it's crucial, we believe that it's at least 8% to 10% out of the population. So it's still giant numbers. So no decision maker says we will not do it. But it's very important that he believes in it in order to have the implementation stage actually happen quickly, in an efficient way, in an effective way. And in this, we are, Access Israel have a special model of doing that and implement it. It's one-stop place of services that knows how to take big organizations and make them fully accessible and inclusive. And this is what we are very good at. And what happened in Israel, that by this system, we made many organizations fully accessible. And all of those organizations, we also gave them an accessibility badge. So they had, for their image, they can use it as advertising themselves in a positive identity. So that was another part of that mechanism. Today, we on another stage, because we already have laws, regulation, and standards where we didn't have it before. But it's very helpful. But the principle of making sure CEOs fully understand and fully believe is still crucial for organization to go all the way in the implementation.
And I couldn't agree more with your phrase when you say accessible business equals profitable business, because that's taking kind of a paradigm shift from maybe even a few years ago where, advertising about accessibility was something that was considered I'm doing good or kind of a handout rather than a hand up. But one of the things that actually you recently, I think it was last week or the week before, you posted something on LinkedIn that went very viral and caught a lot of attention from a lot of people. And I believe it was in a store, it might have been Adidas or Nike, where they had a person in a wheelchair in a mannequin. Like I had a mannequin in a wheelchair, kind of being, this is wheelchair tennis, this is the sport. So I'd love to kind of hear your views on how advertising or marketing has changed, let's say in the past 5 to 10 years, and has it been a positive shift?
What we see is that more and more companies believe and understand that they have to represent the niches of the real life communities or people that are out there. And it's all about, we all know that they have a diversity of many kinds of people, and they are the organization clients, and they should not be afraid to present them as regular and equal clients. The big question about doing these things, or using or presenting people with disabilities in many ways, if it's in advertising campaigns or in the showrooms or in any other way, is this is a true story or just being used for doing a good commercial or doing good PR? If it's done because the organization is actually implementing accessibility and inclusion and it believes in it, and it's only one part of the whole picture of what is done, that is great. If it's just for the PR and the identity, it's a mistake from my point of view, for the organization, because then the expectation from that organization is huge to be very accessible. And if not that, then it will make problems. And we love it anyway because it makes awareness. Because, for example, I saw that Toys R Us have the school bus, the yellow school bus of the States, but they have in the kit of the game, the bus is also with an elevator and a kid with a wheelchair. And the bus station is accessible with a blind man with a can. So when kids grow with games like that, for them it's, this is life, it's normal. And that's what we want. We don't want anything less than to accept us as normal, regular clients. We are people like everyone. We are customers like everyone. Yes, we have various disabilities. Some wise man in Israel said a while ago, if people don't understand that every person in the world has this or that disability, okay, is mistaken. Okay, it may not be a medical disability, but it can be any kind of disability, which is pretty true when we know each other. Each one has its own bugs. So this is the idea.
I didn't know about the Toys R Us example, and thank you for sharing that. And at the end of the day, it comes down to representation. We all want to be represented as people, and regardless of your disability or anything to do with your background and personality, we just all want to be heard. And I think that's super important and reflects across every sector of society. And kind of, Yuval, I wanted to wrap up in a few minutes, but before that, next month you have a really, really awesome conference coming up. I'd love you to kind of share about that and kind of what your goals are for people to take away from that, and what are some of the things globally that Access Israel is going to be advocating and discussing next month.
Yes, we have this yearly international conferences on making the future accessible. It's for everyone that works on the area of accessibility, either inside organizations or as consultants in all kinds, in architecture, in services, in digital, in technology. And it's all the people that this is their job, profession, interested, come together for a few days. The two of them are the conference. Another 3 days is meetups and consultancy and fun and trips. And the idea is that we are a community of both working together, sharing, partnering, learning. And what's unique, it's probably one of the top conferences in the world regarding accessibility. And on top of the conferences itself, we have an amazing experiential area. We also have a big showroom of all kinds of accessibility features, and it's amazing. So if you want to be in the place where you want to see interesting lectures, speak-ups, meetings, and learn about new things, best practices, future things, don't miss it. It's the right place, and you won't regret it. So just contact us.
Awesome. So Yuval, I think that's a great way to end. We kind of already covered your personal story, where Access Israel was founded, its origin story, and also kind of looked at where it's going to go in the future. So Yuval, I wanted to thank you first of all for kind of your mentorship and friendship to not just myself and my company, but to everyone you meet. And you've had such an impact to so many different people, and being in your orbit is something that I'm very proud to be in. And also wishing you the best of luck for the upcoming conference and for everything you do. And I have no doubt this is just one of the many conversations we're going to be having. So thank you again, and I look forward to next time, Yuval.
Thank you very much for having me. And the best way to deal, the tip of the ending of this session, be smart, do accessible by design.